welcome to Smells Like Popcorn, where I start the discussion.
Want to know some more fun facts?
Isn't it awesome to see some of your favorite content creators and favorite people, honestly, that you follow here on this app, be a part of this amazing community called the Nerd Initiative?
The Nerd Initiative presents the Comic Press Podcast, hosted by JJ's Comic Stuff.
What is going on, everybody? You're not hallucinating. You're not going crazy. It is the Comic Press Podcast 2 nights in a row. Welcome back. My name is Jeremy, as always, your host of the Comic Press Podcast. I'm joined yet again by my guest co-host normally. Last night served as producer for everything, Michael Rothman, co-founder Nerd Initiative. And we've got a special guest today. Longbox Entertainment from TikTok, from my other show, the Crossover Comics Podcast, from pretty much everything. What is going on, man?
What's up, y'all? How y'all doing, man? I'm so glad to be here, man. I'm so happy.
We're glad you can make it, because you were saying before we started that there was like it was iffy if you were gonna be able to make it because life and work gets in the way. So it's nice to have you here.
That is definitely true. I am super busy. Just for like anyone's watching, I am active duty Air Force, so I work. Okay, so
yeah. One of the most important jobs out there that can
right.
be.
You can't really be like, hey, man, I gotta go. I gotta do a podcast about comic books.
Comics or active duty. I'm gonna say active duty is a little
a little more important.
Right.
But luckily, everything looks like it timed out perfect, and you're here. We're hanging out, so this is awesome.
Oh yeah, man.
What's first off, before we get into anything, what's it like being a guest and not a co-host for once?
Honestly, this is kind of weird, man. It's like I'm usually like, being a co-host. We are initiating the conversation. So like this time, I'm like, oh. Like, I guess I got to wait for like a question or something. I don't really know. Like, I'm on the other side. So it's kind of like, I feel like, in comics, you know how we have like the villains that end up becoming like a hero later down the line. It's probably a weird transitional period. So that's how I feel right now.
Are you saying you were a villain and you're just now becoming a hero?
Maybe so. I don't know. I mean, everyone's a villain in someone's story, so.
Hey, that's a fair point, man.
Yeah.
Well, we like to start off every show getting to know the person that we're talking to a little bit better, especially if our viewers or listeners have not met them yet. So since you are one of the newer members of Nerd Initiative, you're my co-host on another show. What is your nerd origin story for people who do not know you, my friend?
All right. So it's actually a crazy little story. I mean, well, not too crazy, I don't think. So it all started when I was a kid, right? And I remember the first 2 VHS tapes that my mother ever bought for me. It was Batman, the 1989 movie with Michael Keaton and Jack Nicholson.
Oh.
And then the second one was the Superman movie with Christopher Reeve, right? I wore those VHS tapes out. Literally, I probably broke them, honestly, how much I played them. So Batman and Superman, those were my guys, even to this day, And I remember the first movie I saw in theaters was Spider-Man, the first Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movie. And I remember just being blown away, like, oh my gosh, this dude is like, flipping off of buildings and spinning webs and stuff. I'm like, oh, this guy is cool, And that's how I really started. I always used to watch like the cartoons and stuff growing up. But then it's when I got to middle school, I want to say, I started getting into the comics. So I remember I had like a couple single issues, here and there that my mom would buy for me, but I never had like a complete story that I read. So my school library actually had graphic novels. And
Oh,
this blew
wow.
my mind. Yes, blew my mind. I was like, oh, wow, okay. And I checked out these 3 books. One was Superman Birthright. The second was The Dark Knight Returns. And then the third, it was Ultimate Spider-Man. It was like volume 1 of Ultimate Spider-Man.
What you talk about getting spoiled right out the gate?
That's a great library. Wait.
Dude,
Wait, I got completely screwed over. I didn't have a library that had like Ultimate Spider-Man or like The Dark Knight Returns. Like, what is going on here?
Man, I was like a kid in a candy store, honestly. And they had manga too. So like if you like manga, they had like all the volumes of Naruto up to that point. Yeah, it was crazy. But yeah, I read those and I was hooked. I was hooked.
That's insane. So like, did you have like a bunch of friends growing up that were also into this stuff as hardcore as you were? Or were you like most of us out there where you were kind of like in your own little island at home and then kind of tried to hide it at school?
Basically I would say like I was kind of in my own little like bubble per se. Like I didn't really have that many friends that liked comics or really like read comics like that. Like everyone would go, see the movies and stuff, but not a lot of people read comics. I actually became more of the guy that, oh, if a Marvel movie came out, okay, let's talk to him. Like let's ask him questions about what happens in the comics. So more, I was like the encyclopedia, to other people.
That's a pretty cool title to have.
Right. I mean,
myself.
look at the library sitting behind you. I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah,
So wait,
man.
do you still have those VHS tapes of Batman '89? And because those are probably worth something now. I mean, that's like the new thing. We were talking about this earlier. Tapes and old
Honestly,
games.
I'm pretty sure they're somewhere, probably at my mom's old house, like collecting dust or something. Actually, the funny thing about those movies, I have owned those movies in every single format possible. Had it on VHS, DVD, Blu-ray. I have the Batman movie on 4K, and I just pre-ordered like this box set of like the Superman movies on 4K. So any format of those movies, I'm jumping on it.
That's awesome.
that is insane. Like, okay, so like obviously your parents weren't like discouraging of it because I've heard stories of some kids growing up where their parents are like, the classic, oh, they're gonna rot your brain out. You ain't doing, like what? This not even worth reading. What are you doing? Blah 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 blah. Did your parents were they going that route or were they like, no, here you go?
Well, so like I was raised by like a single mom. I love my mom. She is like my hero. To this day, and she always encouraged it. She was like, that's what he likes, and you know what, it's great. And I feel like she liked the fact that comic books and like these superheroes and these characters really gave me a strong sense of right and wrong. And I learned a lot of life lessons from comic books. And she just, it was better. She would prefer me reading comics than, being out there in like the streets or something. So she wasn't complaining.
Right. I mean, there's definitely worse hobbies you could have that are far more self-destructive than reading a comic book on the weekend.
Right.
Like
Exactly.
as far as habits go.
I remember going to conventions with my mom. Like, it's funny thinking back to those days. And I'll give my mom some grief here and there, but I do remember going to conventions, and it's one of the things I look back at. Like, I wish I had like taken them in and enjoyed them more. I've been more confident in myself when I was there, because 90s conventions doesn't get any more peak comic books than that. Like,
I can only imagine.
Right, that's true. What's funny? I actually went through a stage where I was like, no, comic books, they're lame. I'm done. It was more towards like, I want to say like the I want to say like the end of high school. You know, you started to get more interested in girls and whatnot. You know, I'm not trying to read no comics, you know, but I got back into it, you know, like seeing some of the MCU um, was a big step to get me back in comics. Movies like I think it was like the Dark Knight Rises that came out like right before I went to high school. And I was like, you know what? I miss this stuff. Let me start reading some more. And I YouTube, getting on YouTube, hearing about all these stories. I'm like, I want to read this myself. I During like Christmas, I would ask my mom, I'd be like, hey, I want some graphic novels. And then I found about Omnibus, and I just went crazy.
Yeah, like I said, as you can see behind you there, for anybody watching the podcast, you've got like the extensive library. I remember there was one time, I forget what it was. I think it was one of our other podcast episodes, and somebody made a comment on something you said about Spawn, saying that you obviously don't read comics.
Oh
And that was
yeah,
one of the
yeah.
funniest things I'd ever seen, because I'm like, you obviously don't follow him at all.
Yeah.
Oh man, yeah. It always gets like I always have those random instances on TikTok, and it's all because I'm giving my honest opinion on things. I never try to like be disrespectful in my opinion. I always try to
Mm-mm.
and be very um not like overly critical, but I actually have like some weight with my opinions, at least to myself. Like I've read Spawn, of course. I own like the 4 compendiums. Like I like the character, but Todd McFarlane, he's not the best writer. That's all.
Yeah.
It's pretty to look at,
Yeah, great artwork.
very great. But the writing isn't always there.
Yeah,
That's
I
just
think
my opinion.
when it comes to comics, I think that it's one of those mediums where there is a ton of ownership, whether it's real or imagined, like from the fans, and they
Mhm.
definitely, and Star Wars is up there too, and they definitely get like very much like defensive if it's not. I remember when Dawn of Justice came out, I was working professionally and I gave it a bad review, and the hate that came my way, even though it was like widely not the most loved movie or whatever. And I remember that, and it just, again, like, to each his own. No one should ever feel, bad about liking or disliking something, but there
Mhm.
definitely needs to be, it's good that you're saying your opinions and your educated opinions too, because if people are afraid to do that, then that's a major problem, to say like, oh, I don't like this, or I do like this, or this is what I like and don't like. So I'm glad that you're giving your like unvarnished truth about what you think about some of these comics. That's what, if we lose that, we're in trouble.
Right, exactly. And I get it. I definitely get it. We form attachments to these characters. I hate to say it, but like I think I know Superman and Batman more than I know some of my family members. Like, to be honest, you know.
How's that
Uh,
for honesty?
That's
right,
awesome.
I'm sorry for watching this, the Longbox family. I'm sorry, uh,
That's
but
so good.
it's like I get it, but there's certain things that people are gonna like that you don't like, and there's certain things that
Mhm.
you like that people aren't gonna like, and that's perfectly fine.
Yeah. Well said.
Well, speaking of attachments, not only do we end up with attachments to characters in comic books as fans, we also end up attached to the writers of some of our favorite stories, and then we end up
Mm.
following the writers. So that begs up the next question, next segment of the show. Who is your favorite comic book writer? Now, for me, this changes constantly. Like, this is an ever evolving list of my favorite writers. So, since you're the guest goes first. Who is your favorite writer, and like what are why? What is it about their writing that actually gets you?
So just like you, I want to say like sometimes this changes all the time. But I would say one writer that I can always depend on, and that is Mark Wade. Mark Wade is just that guy. I haven't read anything from Mark Wade that I didn't like. And similar to like other great comic writers, I like to put Mark Wade up there with like Kurt Busiek. He is able to be like an encyclopedia of these characters. You know what I'm saying? Like any character Mark Wade writes, I'm like, he got it. He know their whole history. Like I know it. And he never let me down. Never.
No, that's awesome. Like Mark Wade, like I just showed in the picture, he worked on Kingdom Come, he's worked on The Flash, he's worked on Daredevil, he's worked on Spider-Man, he's worked on pretty much everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, I have never read anything from him that I disliked.
Didn't he also do Deadpool Kills the Marvel Universe too? He was part of that, I think.
Was he on that one?
I think he was.
I think so, because I think I have I say that because I think I have a graphic novel over there, and every day I walk by it and it's got his name on it. So I think I want to say I think he was involved in it somehow.
Well, if he did, it was awesome because Mark Wade is the GOAT. The fact that I feel like all of Mark Wade's writing, it's very new reader friendly too. That's one thing I like about Mark Wade. Like the fact you can jump straight into his Flash run, not even know who Wally West is, but you will develop appreciation and a love for Wally West. And then by the end of it, you'll be like, dang, I know Wally West like he's my brother.
Yeah, he's really good at like showcasing the backstories of characters at the beginning of his runs. He's very good at catching everybody up to what they should, at least the basics of what they should understand going into it.
He's so good. Like the only thing by Mark Wade I haven't read, and I hope people in the comments don't do me dirty, okay? And that is his Daredevil run. I haven't read his Daredevil run yet. I've heard great things. I have the 2 omnibuses. I just haven't got a chance to crack them open. But I will one day, I promise.
I was like, because that's the main run that I always hear get suggested. Every time is the Daredevil run.
For JJ, don't be afraid with welcome Hero Feces Face. We're glad to have you here, and I saw his comment came up.
Yeah, like hey, the name threw me off a little bit.
The name is so good, but definitely want to welcome him and say hi. Obviously. I love that kind of stuff. It's so great.
Hey, you gotta love the live broadcast, man.
So much fun.
Right. Thanks. I see my boy Loco. What's up, man?
Yeah, we got a whole bunch of people coming in here. But so if I had to pick one right now, my favorite writer has got to be James Tynion. Something is Killing the Children, Nice House on the Lake, Department of Truth, The Closet. Like, dude, there's so many great runs that he's worked on. He's also, I believe, worked on Swamp Thing or is getting ready to work on Swamp Thing.
That's perfect.
Oh, and wow, Something is Killing the Children just got picked up by Amazon recently.
Yeah.
And they confirmed that they're going forward with the show. So I don't know if they said it was animated or live action or not.
Did they give up on Invincible, or are we going to see season 2 from that, or no? They're just
They keep saying it's in the works, but that's what they've been saying for like 6 years.
They came out with this little like animated like little trailer thing, and it was basically like Mark, and he was saying, "Yeah, season 2 is coming. Just give us some time. We're working on it." But yeah, but anyway, back to Something is Killing the Children. JJ, I just want to say thank you so much for putting me on.
Did you finally start reading it?
Great. Sir, not only did I start reading it, I read the first 15 issues.
Wow.
Okay.
That's dedication right there.
Yes.
100%.
Oh man. So good. And I think James Tynion does horror like the best.
Because it's very easy with horror to overdo it. It's real easy in horror to overdo the gore, or overdo the suspense, like every issue leave it on a cliffhanger or something. Like, it's real easy to just stick to all the horror tropes, slasher, blood,
Yeah.
guts. Tinian actually makes you like play detective when you're reading his books. Like, you actually have to try and figure out what's going on.
Thor story, and it's so funny because I wanted to bring that up. A friend of the first of all, a friend of the shows, but also a good guy, Dan Jurgens. I could not agree more. So underrated. Also does art. Obviously, I think he does the art for Booster Gold and for other things like that. I know with Superman, I think it's a Brett Breeding mix. With
I've got quite a few of his 90s Superman books in my online shop.
And that was a great. I mean, as much as like I think if that got any down or backlash, that series got backlash because it was just like with the trend of like kill Superman and let's go ahead and let's break Batman's back and let's go ahead and it was it was a lot and then came back, brought him back and all that stuff like that. But I think in general, as the storyline goes, I just read the omnibus is like this big, but I read the omnibus recently again, and I was like, it still kind of like holds water just as much as it did 30 years ago or whatever. So it's
100%. Like that's when you're looking at a good writer, when their stuff holds up.
True.
Not everybody's stuff lasts 20, 30 years and is still good, or still considered good, I should say.
And correct me if I'm wrong, Dan Jurgens, he created Booster Gold, right?
Yeah. Yeah, he's with Superman, Booster Gold. I want to say Green Lantern.
I want to say he did some Green Lantern, but I'm not 100% sure on that.
Yeah, but
he is super underrated.
Yeah, and the fact that he does both too. I mean, again, like when you think about people, it's funny as I start to get like I was talking about this. I don't know if it was yesterday or recently, where I'm like more into now with comics, like signed and remarked, and like something that has like a personal touch to it. Like I'm getting more and more into that, like getting kind of obsessive about it too, which is annoying. But like you start to see the real distinction between. So CGC just announced a signing with David Michelin, and like he's a straight writer, and he wrote Spider-Man for a long time. But it's also like when you're looking to get like a book signed, he's attached to every single Spider-Man book from like the mid 90s or early 90s, like from Venom to Carnage to like, and so it's like, what do like it's tough. And then when you have what Longbox was saying earlier, someone like Todd McFarlane, who is known for his art, but then does both, whether does it well or not, is a discussion topic. But I think it is the dual threats are, you start to real when you see like the names and like the man, my words are not working today, but when you see like the what's the word, the
signature,
or just like you see like the with the masthead, you see like the on the first page where it's like writer, story, inker, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It's very, very much specialized, right? And so I think those guys that can do both and do it well, hats off to those guys. It doesn't happen all the time. So yeah,
100%. Well, I did also ask this question to a bunch of people on Twitter and TikTok and all those other places, and we got a couple really unexpected responses. Like, for instance, Sam Keith. We've got one person that said Amanda Connor.
That's a good one.
She's goated.
And then, I mean, some more expected ones were like Ed Brubaker. Right here, Vectorverse said Brian K. Vaughan. So, I mean, it's crazy to me to see how many different.
Donny Cates is pretty great.
Yeah, I mean, like, and I expected to see more Donny Cates.
Yeah.
And then you've got people who just can't make up their minds, like Hillbilly.
Of course.
Jeff Johns, Mark Waid, Jonathan Hickman.
I will say I love Jeff Johns' Flashpoint run. Love Flashpoint.
Yes, it's so good.
Yeah, I mean, it's
so
super
good.
They've done it to death at this point, right? Like we're gonna get the live action. There's a bunch of animated features. They've done it on the show on CW. They've done, it's been done because it's so interesting, right? Like it changes everything, and you don't often see that. Donny Cates is famous for doing that, like completely shifting what you know about a character or think about a character. And so, yeah, I think I do like Jeff Johns as well, even though he was working on the DC EU for a while, and that didn't work out. He came on, I think, around Dawn of Justice.
Yeah.
I think like creatives, it started like conflicting, you know?
100%. All right. So we got favorite writers, but we've always got the favorite runs from our favorite writers. So starting off with our actual, top favorite writer right now, Mark Waid, you gave me, I believe it was Superman Birthright. Tell us why you picked this one.
Oh man. All right. So Superman Birthright, if everyone was paying attention earlier, I said that my high school had graphic novels, and one of the first ones I checked out was Superman Birthright. So it just has a very special place in my heart, especially it being the first Superman storyline that I ever read, fully. And the fact that it's so cinematic in the way the storytelling is and the artwork. The fact I've always said that Superman Birthright is the Superman movie I always wanted. It is what Man of Steel should have been, at least in my eyes. The fact you have such hope in this character, and I always feel like a good Superman story should always leave you hopeful at the end, and I get this out of Superman Birthright. And even though it's a retelling of the origin, it's been done to death, my ad. Literally, whether it's John Byrne's Man of Steel or like the several adaptations of Superman, it has been done to death. But Birthright is my favorite Superman origin, and Mark Waid gets everything right about the character.
That's awesome. That's another one to add to my Superman list, because Longbox I was an anti-Superman person for so long. I did not like the character. I thought he was completely ridiculously overpowered. I thought that was stupid. And then Longbox is like, just freaking read it. Just read a bunch of Superman, please. I'm like, fine. I started reading Superman All-Star for the first thing I ever really dove into and read. And let me tell you, if you never read Superman before and you try to dive into All-Star Superman, you are confused by page 5.
There's a lot of runs like that. There's a lot of runs like that.
But All-Star Superman, I guess I don't know. I thought going into it would be like more of a structure to the story, when really it's jumping back and forth through time constantly. And I'm just sitting there like, what is going on? And then I was familiar with Bizarro, but I didn't realize a whole chapter of the book was going to be on Bizarro World, and I was going to have to start reading everything backwards. And so that took me forever to get used to doing it. Oh my gosh, man.
Okay, that's my bad. Okay, that's my bad. Because I recommended All-Star Superman because even though I mentioned Superman Birthright, that's my favorite Superman story by Mark Waid. But All-Star Superman is my favorite Superman story. So I was like, oh, I might as well, let him read the best of the best. But then I was like, wait, literally after I said it, I thought about it and I was like, wait, JJ's going to be confused.
And just neglected to warn me. Just let me do it.
Oh, man.
Oh, my bad.
You see what I deal with, folks?
I will say also, Superior Comic had a couple of good ones too. I did forget about Dan Slott. Dan Slott has some fun Spider-Man runs. And then, Kelly Thompson's Black Widow, of course. But yeah, I love Dan Slott. Also, it's funny. I got a lot of those books. Like you have the Cindy Moon run. What's the alternate name for that arc? I should just look around behind me and see what it's like. But yeah, that's a great run. And then also just some of Slott's classic, continuity runs too. So that's a good one too.
And then we've already mentioned my favorite thing from Tinian so far, and that is Something is Killing the Children. There's a reason I talk about this series so dang much. It's just so freaking good. For those of you who've never read it, it follows this girl named Erica Slaughter, and she's a member of basically this secret order of monster hunters, for lack of a better way of explaining it. And she has to go to this little small town because there's been a monster sighting, and it goes way more off the rails than it was supposed to, and it just gets worse and worse and worse throughout this. It's so good though. If you like horror and suspense, that's definitely something to check out.
It's gonna make
I
for a
mean,
great
it took me forever,
Amazon
but I
series.
convinced Longbox to read it. So
Oh, it's good. It's good. Like I've always, I used to see like pictures like on social media of like cosplayers cosplaying as Erica, right? So I've always seen that, and I always wondered about the little bandana thing that they wear. And then after I read it, I was like, "Yep, I can see why people would want to cosplay as Erica. She's awesome."
oh, dude, she's such a good character.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man.
That's gonna be. I mean, I'm gonna go on a limb here. That's gonna be a success on Prime for sure. Like
Oh,
that's gonna be
100%. Even
it's
though
right up
it's
the
I'm
alley with you.
sure I'm already expecting, like, the typical stuff you see on social media. People are gonna be like, "Oh, it was mid. It wasn't as good as I expected. It was either too gory or not gory enough," or, like, it's somebody's gonna have something to say, I'm
Yeah.
sure.
True.
But
People need to learn to have fun again.
if you're a real fan and you look at the fact that the creators of the book are executive producers on the show, then you should have a little more faith.
Yeah.
Facts. Facts.
I want.
Yeah.
Speaking of Amazon, I want to throw someone in here that I didn't throw him before. Charles Soule.
Oh, so good.
Yeah.
Another friend of
I
the
discovered him through 8 Billion Genies.
Yeah, but so I worked with him as far as like doing a show on his Darth Vader run, which it was funny because it's so weird looking back, like reading these books when they were new and fresh. And then like I remember when was it Kirak Infala, like the one who Vader has to kill and then does kill and takes the Kyber crystal to create his Sith lightsaber. And we never, that was like the first time that they filled in so many amazing Star Wars stories that we didn't know, like in between, like Vader knowing about Luke before A New Hope, and his how he has to like make a Kyber crystal bleed to like turn it, all these like crazy stories. And what a run. And then also Daredevil, his Daredevil run is epic too. So that's another one that just popped into my mind that I was like, gotta put Charles Soule in there. I mean, and again, like Amazon, I think 8 Billion Genies is going to be on Amazon, right? That's
I believe that's who picked it up. At least
Yeah.
that's been the rumor. I don't know if anything's been 100% confirmed on it yet, but
he's confirmed it. I just didn't know if it was Amazon. I always get them mixed up. He definitely NYCC, he confirmed it. Like
oh, okay. Gotcha.
We actually spoke to him and he was like, "Oh yeah, Amazon." And
Oh, that's right. I watched that interview.
Yeah, and he was also that's offensive, JJ. No, but he also
How many interviews I watch a day?
No, I also he was a consultant on She-Hulk too, because he obviously, I mean, he's a lawyer by trade, like he used to be. I don't think he practices law anymore, but so he's got like such a crazy background. So yeah,
That's so cool. It's so cool seeing the types of people that end up in the comic industry.
Yeah.
Like,
It's like
I've seen-
Tom King. Tom
writers,
King used
too.
to be special forces,
yeah.
Oh wow,
which is crazy. Yeah. He was like part of like the CIA or something.
that's cool.
So you got
Yeah.
people like those two, and then on the other side of things, you've got people making comic books like Amelia Clark. You've got like Keanu Reeves is doing anime and manga. Like,
Keanu can do no wrong. I mean, let's
I
put that.
agree.
That's another out there who is just a
True
treasure,
that.
a treasure of all treasures. Keanu is, oh man,
He's too good of a human being for Hollywood.
He's amazing.
what was the movie he was in where he made fun of himself? Man, I think it was with Ali Wong and the guy from Fresh Off the Boat, and then Keanu Reeves came in there, and it was a couple years ago, and he basically just spoofed himself. and he was like so serious. It's just a great. I wish we had a clip. It's great. They're eating dinner, and like I guess it's one of those places where they blindfold you to eat, so you're supposed to have like the sensory like excitement. And
I know what you were talking about. Yeah,
it's a great scene, and Keanu's like he's classic Keanu. He's like, oh, it's like the earth, and it rides through your loins, and like just whatever Keanu you can picture Keanu saying like. I'm an FBI agent, and so it's just Keanu's the best, man. He's just I love him to death. It's great.
he is.
All right, so next up for Longbox, we've got Jeff Johns, Justice Society of America. What made you go with this one?
Okay, so everyone has one story that they at least love by Jeff Johns. You know, Jeff Johns is one of those modern writers that, for the most part, he knows how to write comics. He gets stuff right. But out of all his big runs, you know, from Green Lantern to Flash to all this different stuff, JSA has just spoke to me. I don't know what it is about that book. I just love it. I read this whole run in the 3 omnibuses that are out, and actually earlier towards the end of last year, earlier this year, I reread those 3 omnibuses because I just love them so much. And Johns, he just knows how to make you nostalgic for stuff that you weren't even alive for. like literally, why do I feel like I've known Jay Garrick and Alan Scott and I don't know, Mr. Terrific, you know, for the most part, for the general audience, these are obscure characters, you know, but he made me love them and build up a connection. And I feel like Jeff Johns is truly his best work, and not a lot of people talk about it.
I want to throw a random one in there.
Okay.
I was just looking up. If you saw me like distracted, I was looking up like how many issues he did right. So here's one that's like Captain Obvious, but I just think it is like the blossoming of Marvel Comics in its heyday. I'm gonna go with a little guy named Stan Lee for his Fantastic Four run, and I'm not saying I don't want to say first like 10 issues. I want to say because I think I'm reading. He wrote 102 issues, so I'm guessing probably like around the first 100. So I want to say like starting with like This Man, This Monster, and then going from there is some of the like the coolest vintage Marvel work around. And I know obviously it's like what a low hanging fruit saying Stan Lee, but I think just for that run, his early Spider-Man is awful. Let's just be honest. Like I've said this a million times, his early Spider-Man stuff is terrible. Like people can kill me for that. His Fantastic Four stuff is really good. I mean, he didn't even have Peter Parker. It was Peter Palmer. Like he's not like his early Spider-Man stuff is bad. So like I'm not.
But it's so touted because it's it's the original.
Yeah. And it was game changing. It was unique and different. But stories go. I've been reading like some of the old Fantastic Four runs, and they're just really good storylines. I mean, some of them are crazy and zany and kooky and like.
I mean, that's just 60s comics, though, right?
True.
I mean,
True.
that's that Silver Age campiness that everybody eventually came to love.
Like Ramatut and like it's just so random and weird, but like it's fun though, and like I mean whatever.
Well, that's the era with the giant nickel in Batman's.
With the dinosaur and all that.
That's, that's the same era. So like you talk about like that's why I always compare the Spider-Man live action movies to different eras of comics. Because in my head, that's what makes me think of like Toby's is Silver Age campy, over the top Spider-Man. Then you've got Andrew Garfield. I would put him more along the lines of like Ultimate Spider-Man. And then you've got Tom Holland, which honestly is his own thing at this point. But
yeah. Basically,
that's Sony for you though, right? I mean,
Fantastic Four. I'm just thinking I could just see Jack Kirby artwork and man,
how could you not like the original Jack Kirby artwork for stuff, man? Like,
and Steve Ditko too. Like, it's not again, and I'm looking at like, so I have this the variant signed by Stan of the alternate Ditko cover for 700.
Oh, nice.
And I mean, look, his Spider-Man, it's not good. There's like some nostalgia to it. Like the head is all weird and blocky, and like Peter Parker's 45 years old, but he's in high school, and so like, it's fine. Like it just, but there's just something kind. I don't know. Am I old enough now to be like it was a simpler time and like I reached that age demographic already or whatever? But I don't know. It's super interesting and cool.
All right, so my second writer that I'm gonna go ahead and say, and it's a pretty common thing, but it's very particular. Like I'm very weird about this writer. It's Donny Cates, and the book is Crossover. This book blew my freaking mind the first time I read it. I don't know why it blew my mind so much, but like, I mean, I've got it right here. This is the one we took our name for Crossover Comics from. Like that's how good this freaking book is. Basically, what would happen if comic books one day just blew up and all the characters interacted with real life people?
That's awesome. I gotta.
That's the premise.
That's the premise of Crossover.
There's not even a pretend to know it. Like he's like, wait, what?
I knew he hadn't read this.
That is
yet,
the best
so,
reaction.
I
ever.
remember you mentioned it to me before.
Oh man, that's
bro.
great.
I'm telling you, bro. And there's old school like characters in this book that like nobody owned the trademarks for at the time. Like Mad Max is in here.
Oh wow.
Like actually, if you look at the back cover, there he is right there.
That's great.
He's like one of the main protagonists in the book.
I mean, I was gonna say it's funny. I was gonna be like, wow, if Donny Cates is watching this, like, I guess Crossover Comics is about to get a cease and desist letter from Donny Cates himself. Be like, yeah, like, sorry guys. Like,
no, because his is just Crossover. We're Crossover Comics because it's through Image. It's not a brand, you know. I think we're all right, but
yeah, I think it's. I'm joking around. I think it's fine.
Look, how much money Crossover Comics has gave Donny Cates? Come on,
dude, seriously. We've paid for the licensing rights. All right.
Right. Oh man,
but no, like it's just something that I don't think had really been done in comics before. Like it broke that fourth wall of the comic books world isn't the real world in the comics anymore. You know what I'm saying? Like now it's interjecting with actual reality. And of course, nothing goes well at the beginning. So
when is that run?
It gives me Fables vibes.
It's recent. I know that.
But that premise, it kind of gives me like Fables vibes, but like with comic book characters.
Yeah,
like they're in the real world.
Oh, 2020.
Yeah,
it's 2020.
Yeah, so I mean, it's very recent. The second volume of the trade came out not too long ago.
I mean, I just think it's cool. I mean, look, that's what makes the MCU so fun and different. Is that like there's an air of reality to it, right? Like,
right.
You know, I think no one's gonna say. And it's tough. I love Batman. It's probably my favorite character. Like maybe Spider-Man are tied, but like when you go see a Batman movie, you're not mistaken for for real New York City or whatever. Like, and I think that's the cool thing about the MCU and Marvel in general. It's like things are set in realism. So a crossover is a cool. Just it gives me like MCU and like what Longbox is saying, like Fables vibes. Like it's a really cool, unique idea. And it's also, I mean, I can imagine how much fun the writers are having in there poking fun at each other because they're in the book, being like making fun of each other and putting them in there and like.
Oh yeah, and there's writers in the book too. Like there's writers interacting with like characters they've created and stuff. Like it's so cool.
JJ, why you never told me about this?
But and then like at the same time, it's dealing with like major social issues because they're basically treating the comic book characters as illegal aliens. Like the rest of society is. So they're trying to like shun them. Comic book stores are getting banned all over the country. Like all kinds of stuff's happening. Like it's insane. Dude, it's such a good book. And that's what I was saying. Like, I'm very particular about what Donny Cates I really like and what Donny Cates I don't. I'm not a big fan of his Marvel and DC stuff. I love his indie stuff so much.
And who published Crossover?
Image.
Okay.
Which I know people argue with me sometimes. Image isn't independent. I'm like, it's creator owned, which is pretty much the definition of independent. Each creator who gets a book published owns their book.
Yeah.
Like they have the ability to take it to another publisher in the future if they so choose.
Yeah. Image is just a publisher. That's it. That's all they did. But yeah, I'm gonna have to check that out because I just recently read God Country by Donny Cates, and I really enjoyed that.
I have that one too. So good.
Crossover is definitely one that's gonna be added to my list. Gosh, JJ, help me stop spending money, man.
And now that's the exact opposite of what we do here on the Comic Press. We encourage people to spend their money on stuff, man. That's how you get further into the hobby.
You should change
read more.
You should change the logo to like pressing money out of your wallet or something.
Right. Right.
Put a little vacuum there, sucking the dollar bills out of it or something. We'll figure something out. So, okay, we're down to the last couple of suggestions. And the last one you gave me, Longbox, which was a kind of a shock to me. The Question by Dennis O'Neil. Explain this one.
Yes. So a lot of people always get thrown off when I mention this run. Because a lot of people think, oh, when you mention Dennis O'Neil, you're going to talk about, oh, Batman, or you're going to talk about, Green Lantern, Green Arrow. But I feel like The Question is honestly Denny's best work because, first of all, it was a very obscure character that at the time DC had just got the rights to. So, because originally The Question was at Charleston Comics with, like Peacemaker and Blue Beetle and all them. So DC had just got the rights and they were going to do The Question. And the fact that this is Denny O'Neil unhinged. Like he could do whatever he wanted with the character. And you can tell that he was just free to do whatever that he couldn't do with Batman or do with Green Lantern, because those are very big established characters. And it's so dark. It has like that detective noir vibe to it. I love the part where The Question actually reads Watchmen by Alan Moore. There's a issue in here where The Question reads and he's like, oh, this Rorschach guy. And it's kind of meta in a way. And he's like reading it and he's like, you know what? I don't like Rorschach.
And isn't that pretty much everybody's reaction by the end of Watchmen is that like Rorschach's kind of a piece of crap, like trying to watch my language here.
Yeah. Basically.
He's a piece of feces.
There you go.
basically, yeah. I just love it. It made me fall in love with this character that I never thought that I would like, and it's just good. I think people should just read it. I love the social political messages that it has in it as well, and I hope that doesn't turn off people because I know some people don't like when comics talk about politics and stuff, but I think comics should talk about real world things,
I mean, when have they not talked about politics and stuff and social issues, though? I mean, haven't they kind of always tackled that kind of stuff from the beginning?
Exactly.
Captain America debuted punching out Hitler. I mean, come on.
Exactly. But another thing I do want to plug is like the artwork on this run is by Dennis Cohen, and Dennis Cohen is very famous for his Milestone comics, like Hardware. He worked on Hardware.
We were talking about this.
Yeah. I think he also worked on Icon as well. But yeah, Dennis Cohen, he actually co-founded Milestone. So this is some of his early work that you get to see. And that's cool. Blows me away.
I got one last ad. I mean, I got to go with Todd McFarlane for Spawn as writer, not artist. I'm just kidding.
Really? I was going to say, like, hey, if that's
what you're kidding.
Look,
the argument.
Michael, I was going to let you rock.
I can't believe the straight faces on you guys' face. And I think Longbox he was about to literally jump out of his shirt. He's like, wait, what? I just said I hate this earlier. I was literally just kidding around.
I was like,
oh, love it.
I'm joking. I'm 100% joking. All right.
Oh, my goodness.
That joke didn't hit. Bad joke. I pull it back.
I was like, oh no.
I thought it was gonna be like erupting like laughter, and then like we go like this, like, and I was like, no, I'm just messing around with you guys. I'm just messing around.
Honestly, I was just
that
curious
makes it
to hear
even
the
funnier
reason.
because
I
we
was
thought
like,
you were serious for a second.
I'm gonna do that from now on. Maybe that's like my new shtick. It's just
Yeah,
kinda
there you
geek.
go.
Yeah.
You know, the T-shirt that says, "All right, this is my last thing I'm gonna say," and then
Yeah. Like my favorite movie is David Ayer's Suicide Squad. Like the underlying tones of that movie were so good. And the layers and the depth of that movie, and Margot Robbie just like brought it home, and Oscar-winning Suicide
I
Squad.
remember going to see that crap in the theater, dude, and it was just like I was so disappointed when I left.
It was one of the last movies that made me angry, like physically angry. It's just
Yeah,
so
like I was
bad.
expecting some super like awesome badass movie, and it was just not. I
Well,
apologize if you guys enjoyed it out there, but
exactly. No judgment on anybody else.
yeah.
just my opinion for what little that's worth. So my last one, Kyle Higgins, Radiant Black. I mean, this is another one that I talk about a lot. A lot of people have been super hyped on this series, and in my opinion, there's good reason. If you like Power Rangers, if you like superheroes, if you like ultra futuristic tech and space stuff and giant animatronic super gods, this is up your alley.
Well, give us a quick synopsis, because I mean, this is definitely a hot book right now. Like people
Yeah.
love Radiant Black.
So basically, it follows a writer who is pretty much like he's not a good writer. He's been struggling to get a job for years and years and years as just like an article writer or some kind of writer, and it's just not working. So he goes out with his buddy, moves back home with his parents because he can't afford rent anymore. Goes out with his buddy one night drinking, leaves the bar. They're going across these train tracks, and they see this little weird shape floating over the train tracks. What it turns out to be is a micro black hole, and it gets sucked into his body and gives him powers. So the suit automatically just appears on him, and for a second he's all freaking out because he can't figure out how to take the helmet off, and he's got like it makes him sick. Like he gets transported through a different dimension real quick and brought back. Like he doesn't know what's going on. And it's happened. It turns out it's happening to multiple people throughout the world, and they're like all getting chosen by these little black hole entities that they're calling the Radiants.
Oh, that's cool.
So there's a Radiant Black, there's a Radiant Pink, there's a Radiant Yellow. I think, yeah, there was a Radiant Yellow. Like there's Rogue Sun now. There's Dead Lucky. Like they're basically just expanding this universe, and like it's Power Rangers on steroids. Basically, is the way I describe it to people.
That's cool.
That's another thing that JJ put me on, man. He told me about Radiant Black. He's like Longbox, like you like Power Rangers, like check out Radiant Black. So I remember I ordered the first trade, read it immediately, ordered the second trade and Rogue Sun, because that is so good. It's what I want from Power Rangers, that I think that could make it a big franchise like the MCU. But Radiant Black is doing it.
For sure. And like I said, they've got their spinoff series, Radiant Red, that just came out with the trade. They've got Rogue Sun that's probably getting ready to come out with Volume 2 very soon. It's just going to keep going. Dead Lucky is getting its trade coming out soon. Supermassive One Shot number 2 is coming out. So it's and they're saying there's a big announcement at C2E2 they're doing now.
Ooh.
Which that just got announced today. I remember ODPH Ken was saying something about it earlier today.
That's cool.
Wonder what it's gonna be.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what that is.
I mean, I've seen whispers and hints and lots of requests for an animated series, because they put out this weird little trailer where they had two different image characters fighting. And it was, I forget who Radiant Black was fighting against, but he was fighting against another image character. And it was like this animated thing. And
Spawn?
Was it Spawn?
I Okay, I'm
It was
I
kidding.
don't know. I
fun.
don't remember because it's been a while since I
Fun.
watched it. But it made people really, really want a show. Like I remember when it came out, there was a lot of buzz just because all it was a little scene they made. Like I don't think it was meant to be anything, but
Mhm.
now there's all kinds of whispers like, oh, there's some big announcement coming up. Oh, they're talking about wanting to do a show. Oh, they're talking about this and that and the other. But with all the traction this series is getting, it wouldn't surprise me at all.
That's what kills me about fan-made films. Like, because sometimes they just whet the appetite so well, and then you don't really get a payoff. Like, I remember like Star Wars has a lot of those, and there was what I want to see with Star Wars is the old Republic, like the original Jedi, and like
Yes.
I definitely want to see my man Keanu as like Darth Revan and stuff like
Yes!
yeah, like
Oh, yes.
and like I remember there was a really, really well done. There's a couple of them out there. I mean, there's a lot. A couple. I mean, couple. I'm an idiot. There's a lot of them out there. But there was one that was really good. That like, I don't know if they did a deep fake with Keanu's face or whatever, but it was like a 5-minute thing, and it was so like epic, and it was so riveting about like the old Republic and the Jedi and and then I think it was the God, not the Darth, but like the Sith were from a planet, like, and it had like so much in it for a couple of minutes, and you were like, when is the next what like wait, what and it was like, oh, it's just a viral mini clip that someone made. And I was like, no, what are you doing? This is terrible. Like you're killing me. Like
But the fun thing is that it's based off of a lot of stuff that was legit. Like that whole fan fiction thing was based
oh
off
yeah.
of the Knights of the Old Republic video games back in the day, the Legends books that detail all that history of the Sith and the ancient Jedi. And like, there's so much material for them to work with other than the Skywalkers.
I don't understand when it comes to that stuff. I don't understand. Like for those who don't know, and like we've talked about this in the past. So Jedi used to be just all Jedi or whatever, however you say it, and they splintered off. Like fallen Jedi became Sith, right? And so that's such a low hanging fruit for a story. Like, why? How
Like
would
it's
you
right
not?
there.
How would you
Right.
not do like? It's a utopian past, and the Jedi are flourishing, and blah,
Because
blah.
like, the ancient Jedi's Sith, the very first civil war between them was done with actual swords.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't know
Just
that
infused
part.
with force energy. It wasn't lightsabers yet because they hadn't developed those yet.
That's super cool. We need to see that.
See?
And that's just random lore
That's what
that
I
Disney has
want.
just said none of Legends is
Ah.
real now. None of Legends is canon. None of it is continuity. So it's all just
And speaking of that, that's one thing that I'm honestly upset about, that none of the Legends continuity is canon anymore, because I really love how, especially with Luke and how he was building up his own Jedi Order, and he realized that it was his attachments, his relationships with people is what made him stronger. Like he actually learned from the mistakes of the past Jedi Order, and that's something like
and was
I
improving
really
it.
wanted to see. Yes, and was
Yeah.
exactly. But hey, the mouse is gonna do what the mouse is gonna do.
Yeah, we'll see what happens with that.
Well, I think we're all out of stuff to talk about on here for now, guys. Longbox, make sure we got to tell everybody, where can they find you? What are you working on? Where can they get a hold of you online?
Oh yeah, so you can find me on TikTok, Longbox_entertainment on TikTok. Also, I have a Instagram as well, same name. I'm actually starting to post a lot more on my Instagram. You're getting more of like a kind of like comic book reviews kind of on my Instagram. So that's what I like to do. And on my TikTok, I'm just talking about anything nerdy. Like JJ said earlier, like we have a podcast together, Crossover Comics Podcast, which you can find on our YouTube with that. And that's an amazing show. We always have a guest on talking about nerdy stuff or whatever. So yeah, that's about it.
Good deal. And Michael, where can they find you at online?
I'm everywhere. No, I'm kidding.
I mean,
yeah,
basically.
Yeah, Superhero Talk on TikTok, and then Michael Rothman on Instagram and other platforms, and really just Nerd Initiative anywhere. That's the main thing for me.
That's the biggest thing. But make sure you guys go subscribe to Nerd Initiative. Follow us on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, wherever you can find us. Go follow us. We're always trying to put out good, positive content, and I think we're doing a pretty good job of that so far. So,
Most def.
and of course, I'm Jeremy, aka JJ's Comic Stuff. You can find me on TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, everywhere. Here, Crossover Comics,
MySpace.
You never know. I might still have a page on there from back in high school. So
my name on Instagram is Comic Tom 101. Check me out. It's
shout out to Comic Tom. They were guests on the show last night. All right. Well, next time, or my words are getting jumbled here. I've been talking too much today,
same
guys.
Same bad channel, same bad time.
Right. Exactly.
There you go.
Next week, same time, or not next week, 2 weeks from now, same time, 6 p.m. Check us out everywhere and be safe, be kind. Take it easy, guys. I'm tired.
Peace.
Be safe, be kind. Make sure to rewind.